When you think about it, digital identity, digital security is so interwoven with practically everything we do from a digital business standpoint. Every application, device, server has some kind of security requirement when it enters into a corporate network or if you're working remotely. So ensuring that you retain good security practices for your corporate assets, if you're transacting online using e-commerce, secure code execution, VPN, the list of where we use digital identity just goes on and on and on. And it's pretty much transparent and an integral part of pretty much everyday life, really. And so ensuring on the journey to quantum computers becoming available, understanding where you are using cryptography, probably at a macro level, auditing your environments and working out where you are actually using quantum is an essential part of preparedness. It's so embedded in everyday life within a business. Understanding where it is and how it's being used is a key factor in becoming quantum ready, shall we say.
I totally agree. And the way that I've portrayed this or described this in a lot of conversations is that cryptography is like carbon. It's the element that's used everywhere. It's part of the fabric, it's woven in, but conventionally it's something you've ignored, and it's not something that people, quote, paid attention to. Why would you? It's there, it does what it does, and it's fairly impermeable. It's not something where when you hear about something hacking into a system that they, quote, have beaten crypto. Crypto is the last place you go to crack an algorithm, to crack a hardware device that's using the fundamental capabilities. So I think this is it's now turned upside down. Those same points of that cryptography has provided as a castle, a keep, a moat around applications and devices is now the potential compromise point. And that's the scary part, without saying the sky is falling. This is just a matter-of-fact statement that cryptography is something we wholly depend on. And now that we're looking at it with a spotlight and through a lens and microscopically reaching into our organizations and our devices, we realize that we have a significant undertaking on the horizon that we need to start now.
So when we think about how digital signatures are used, I mean, think about your own signature and how you're using the traditional term wet signature to authorize something today. You're signing a contract, you're entering into an agreement, and your signature is then verified against a passport, a driver's license, some kind of national identity document to prove it is you. And that often comes with a photograph. So you kind of have this picture of, yep, this is Mike, here's his signature, and that proves identity, and that identity can be trusted to authorize the contract, to authorize the release of funds, to apply for a mortgage. But what if that signature could very easily be compromised? The real threat from quantum computers is the fact that you may be able to create a copy of someone else's digital identity. So your ability to sign and authorize a document as an individual almost evaporates. You could have foreign actors creating copies of credentials through documents that are already in existence. There's a whole raft of documents that I and others will have signed readily available, or that have been made available through compromise. So people can, with the assistance of a quantum computer, compromise a digital signature and start signing documents on your behalf. If you take that a step further, it goes beyond digital signatures. If you could create a credential that would make your system appear online as if it were someone's bank, you could compromise their credentials and very easily access their finances and empty accounts. So this goes beyond digital signatures. This is how will quantum computers impact digital identity worldwide. Being able to recreate someone's cryptographic identity that is fundamentally unique to them is what we're really talking about here.
Mike, I think the fundamental underpinning of digital signatures is trust. And we talk about trust, but drilling down into that, digital signatures are about the integrity the fact that something has been signed and verified. These are aspects that are lost on people that I don't know, want to say take for granted, but digital signatures are in everything. And think about something that we presume has been unaltered. Take, for example, I go to a storefront or a digital storefront, and I assume that is the, in fact, place I'm going to do business. And right now we're looking at these things with trust in mind. We see the logos, we see so many things that we again take at face value. Digital signatures are behind the scene to verify that what we're really working with and what we're really talking to is in fact who we think it is, and so on and so forth. So I think that the part that digital signatures provides is, yes, it's a digitized and attested to a cryptographically bound capability, but so much is all about whether or not that's been altered or changed. And if we don't know it's been changed, that trust is just gone. And so this is, I think, where we're all struggling, is that we know that this is coming in so many areas. Take, for example, telemetry to a satellite. That's pretty important, that we have an asset up in space that the telemetry is, in fact, if we're setting up firmware, that, for example, that digital signature on that piece of firmware is valid, so that it will do what it's supposed to do and rotate the Earth in the right trajectory, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going way into the weeds, but I would think that it's not just about documents, it's not just about transactions. There's so much more to a digital signature, and we're making sure that in the next 10 to 20, 30 years that those signatures that are in place are in fact what they're supposed to be. A great question. We get this all the time. How long or when do I need to start? Or give me a date, give me some estimate. Unfortunately, prediction is not a plan. And we need to spend less on the predict and more on the preparation. So what I think we need to do is look at this holistically and say, in parallel, and think about the last 20 years of momentum with regards to the advent of quantum computers. They're coming on. We're moving from theory to reality, where we have literally viable quantum computers. Bear in mind, they're in early stages of V1 or V2, but we know that they're coming. And we also know that their ability to run cryptographically relevant quantum computers, for that matter, ability for them to run Shor's algorithm, which will be used, ironically, to break current crypto such as RSA or ECC. We know that this is in the foreseeable future, and do not bet against progress. So I think what we're saying is, let's prepare for that, because we don't have a fixed date like we did with Y2K. What we do know is that there is enough opinions and research to show us and tell us that those that are building happy quantum also understand that they are building something that can be used, as I said in the beginning, for nefarious reasons. So I think preparation is get started now, seek knowledge, and get your organization into the conversation. If you haven't started, or again procrastinating on starting, I wouldn't say you're too late, but you are going to fall far behind very, very quickly.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, going into something like preparing for a change in any form of cryptographic scheme, you cannot be prepared enough. I mean, we've all lived through the switch from SHA-1 to SHA-256, which I think in comparison is rather small, because of how embedded in everyday life and everyday business life cryptography has become. We rely upon it extremely heavily when running applications, from transacting online, exchanging business documents. It's extremely worthwhile starting now. If you haven't already started, start now, looking at all of the systems that you use, looking at where you're storing data, what data are you storing. Audit absolutely every element of your digital estate to work out where you are using key certificates, crypto, digital identity. Do you have documents that are stored in archive? Do you have legacy systems that have specialized requirements? Build that asset, that risk register, start talking to the vendors that you have. Make sure that there's visibility at your senior management layer. Make sure that your crypto custodians and your cryptographic center of excellences have this on their radar, because as you say, Blair, there isn't a firm set fall off date like Y2K. We know this is coming. There are certain predictions that are out there. Some say 3 years, some say 5 years. But we all know in the technology space, things come along extremely quickly. And if you're not making preparations now, you're not laying the foundation, you're going to be bitten by this, and bitten royally. So it is a case of auditing your environment, making sure you have a good handle on where you are using crypto. It's a safe bet to say you're using it pretty much everywhere, but having those conversations and knowing who you need to talk to and what systems you need to address, touch, when vendors are providing quantum safe solutions.
Like, I think we're all in the same boat here. And one of the analogies we've been working on is, imagine something to the extent of a battleship or a large vessel, and the number of rivets that are used in that vessel. And you ask someone, well, how many do you think you have? You'll be surprised when you find out that every single one of those rivets, and let's use the comparison that each rivet is the crypto that's holding it together, now has to be removed and replaced with stainless steel or some source of carbon fiber. I don't know, name your material here, but my point, I think we're all, is that preparing for such an uplift is something that we've never had to do before to this extent in the history of crypto. You mentioned the uplift from SHA point of view. That's a great example, but we have RSA embedded in everything from browsers to all public key infrastructure, all code signing, all things used behind the scenes. And when we talk about critical infrastructure, let's add in the internet. That is critical infrastructure. It's not just hydro, as we say, or oil and gas or infrastructure. It is part of the infrastructure that we rely on for not only IT, but operational technology. So I think this is why we're all getting prepared. And when I say get prepared, I said seek knowledge. There's organizations already available that can provide those services or those discovery services to give you a cross section of it or some representation with your organization as to what you're going to be up against. But we always find out that when we run the first scan, so to speak, from determining where your crypto assets are, you'll be surprised. You'll be very surprised at how many certificates you have and where your crypto is and how it's being used. And so this speaks to this term of crypto hygiene. You need to do this anyway. So take this opportunity to do that crypto hygiene. And while you're doing it, you'll understand and have a better view, a better lens to look through in terms of where all your crypto is in your organization.
This exchange and what we're discussing, I mean, yeah, we're talking about auditing systems, we're talking about discovery, and it has a tendency to sound a little on the negative side. This is a significant event that's approaching us, right? But it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, I look, we're in 2024, and I look at projects that Assertia and Thales have jointly been involved with, and I see requirements out there to still continue using SHA-1, even though it's still being deprecated. You are going to find business applications and use cases where moving from one cryptographic scheme to another is going to be quite painful. I immediately start thinking about cryptographic smart cards that are out in circulation. Right. Those have logistics problems. You've got to replace those. There's not going to be that easier fix. So it does give you the opportunity to look at where and how you're using crypto, and a project that you rolled out 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 years ago was selected based upon the technology that was available to you at the time. You've now got the option and the ability to look at how you're using crypto within your organization and look at those use cases and say, you know what, in 2024, these guys do a way better job. And a good example of that is going to be taking end user based cryptographic credentials that are highly distributed. They're out there on smart cards or on endpoints. Look at the use case, and there may be an opportunity to centralize them within a hardware security module, nice and secure in your data centers, that provides you the option to use remote authorization to access them. So you're kind of improving your user experience. You're improving the security of your solution by moving to some form of hardware-based crypto module, and you're kind of checking a load of tick boxes as well. So it gives you a nice opportunity to reevaluate some of the ways in which you are using crypto and some of your use cases. So yeah, it's a significant event we're heading for, but there are a lot of positives that you'll find along that journey.
That's an absolutely. I'd love to add to that. Again, we could talk all day about the positive side, or being an optimist versus a pessimist. I know it could be perceived that this is, I don't want to know how bad my problem is, or if I start this, do I have the people, do I have the resources to fix this? And the answer is yes, there is. Scale is going to be a problem for some large organizations. That's a truth. That is the effect that, you've got a large enterprise, you have an immense wiring and plumbing within large enterprise is more significant, and understandably. But when you did a sample size, or you attempt and you say, listen, this is somewhat representative, and we can demonstrate that we have some heavy lifting to do on these priority assets, and it's not going to be done with a flip of a switch overnight. Preparation is going to be, in my opinion, 3, 4, 5, 6 years to migrate, and not everybody is susceptible. Not everybody is a target. But as we said, you simply not starting is not a great plan, and ignoring the problem is not a great plan. And we've seen in the last 12 months this illumination going on that organizations are starting to take things seriously. Why? Well, maybe it's because the algorithms that we've been waiting for the last 8 years are coming to fruition this summer in 2024. That's a significant milestone, that it's moving from theory to practice, and organizations can take those and apply a hybrid approach. You're not going to be literally ripping and replacing. Even to your point about hardware, excuse me, not all hardware is going to be ripped out. In fact, smart cards, easy. Credit card companies can swap those credit cards out with the new and improved. How do we know that? Well, because we're the manufacturers, one of the world's largest manufacturers of those smart cards and those SIM cards going in devices. But our hardware security modules, we're going to do an uplift with firmware. We're not going to ask you to rip that out of your enterprise. And that's a significant pause and a good thing to know, that we're not asking you like you have an iPhone, just go get a new iPhone. No, these things are wired in. They're highly many applications are highly dependent on those HSMs, but we'll be able to provide firmware upgrades in the field. And by the way, at no cost. And I think that's really something we want to leave with everybody, is this is not an opportunity for, say, Thales or others to make immense amounts of money moving you to quantum readiness. We're going to provide this, in parallel.